Last time, Deku took on Parenthood. In part 2, things get even crazier. Let's see how he handles it. She had never considered Rumi to be a liar. It is true that she had caught her lying on more than one occasion, but it is not that she was a big liar, so she could consider what she said to be fine. Her explanation may have been a little exaggerated, but she did raise something that Ryuko had not thought of until that moment. The boy's life was quite interesting to her, or rather she was curious about him. She was always curious about other people. That's what led her to be in a relationship with Keigo in the first place. When she was studying, Keigo was one of her classmates, someone quite intelligent who never seemed to be around. He would disappear for days on end, and when he came back he would act like nothing happened and even come back with all his homework done and up to date with his subjects. That sparked her curiosity, and between chatting and following her around she ended up with more than just her curiosity satisfied. Of course, after having her heart broken in such a way, it's not that she wanted to learn more about people, no matter how intriguing they may be. She learned to retain her curiosity and, much more, to always keep herself at bay with those close to her. On the other hand, he was her daughter's babysitter, literally the person she trusted to protect and care for her when she was not there. Getting to know him would be beneficial to know who Ryuta really is. It was not so crazy to want to know a little more about him. Ryuko, it's a really bad idea, she muttered to herself, looking very intensely at the contact on her phone. It was 3 in the morning and her curiosity kept her awake, but it's his fault for not being able to sleep, she muttered, trying to convince herself that it was a really good idea. She continued looking at the contact without deciding. Besides, he's probably asleep at this time. She looked at her watch again. It was almost 4 in the morning, her time to wake up. Damn. Without further ado, she got up and prepared to start her day a little more bitter than usual. Of course, having that mental dispute affected her when doing things. She was barely focused on what she was doing and her daughter was noticing it. Her mother was going overboard when she was cleaning the table and made quite a mess that she quickly fixed, and the worst thing was that she almost burned breakfast, which worried the girl. Ryuta, mommy, are you okay? He murmured in fear, which surprised his mother. Ryuko, why do you say that, darling? She picked up her little girl who looked quite indecisive. Ryuta, you're just stupid. Her mother was paralyzed thinking about what to answer. You almost broke the painting that Aunt Rumi gave us and the rice almost burned. Her mother smiled sweetly at her. Ryuko, I'm just a little distracted, honey, it's nothing more. She smiled tensely at her little girl who didn't look very convinced. Ryuta, I don't think so, he pouted at his mother who looked more tense. Ryuko, okay, maybe I'm a little crazy, but it's because I haven't slept much, I'm a little tired. She caressed her little girl's cheek, who looked worried. Calm down, honey, it's nothing you have to worry about. She put her daughter down and continued preparing breakfast. Of course her daughter was very worried even though she disguised it. It was clear that he was not okay, so in the girl's mind, her mother needed help and what she could get without her mother getting angry was very limited. She had to think carefully about who to call. She immediately thought of her Aunt Rumi, but more than once her mother had called her a hopeless fool that only she could understand, so she did not seem to be the necessary help in this situation, so she only had one option, the person who was almost as intelligent as her mother. So while his mother finished preparing breakfast he ran to his room, grabbed his mother's phone and quickly searched for the important contact before calling. Mom always told him how to do it in case of an emergency, and for Ryuta this was a very big emergency. Ryuko, Ryuta, eat, she called her little girl who came to the table with a big smile. What did you do, little one? Her little girl simply sat down nervously. Ryuta, I didn't do anything, pouted, looking away, which made his mother doubt even more. Ryuko, honey, I'm not going to scold you. Her little girl took a spoon and started eating without wanting to talk to her. Ryuta, she was going to continue when the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? She walked towards the door, letting her little girl breathe calmly. Ryuta, I leave my mom to you, she murmured into the air, quite proud of calling for help. Ryuko, eh? Midoriya-san? Surprised, she looked at the freckled boy who smiled quite tensely. What are you doing here so early? I don't remember hiring you today. Looking at him head on, her doubts and curiosity returned. Izuku, oh. Ryuta-chan called and said that her mom was very sick and that she needed my help. He spoke calmly, surprising the woman. Ryuta, he spoke coldly, making the girl tremble in her seat. Izuku, is Ryuko-san okay? The woman smiled quite tensely. Ryuta, just exaggerated things, I didn't sleep well, that's all. The freckled boy let out a sigh. Izuku, thank goodness, I thought he was in bed or something wrong. The woman smiled with some affection. Ryuko, as you can see I am in full capacity, smiled, trying to calm the freckled boy. Ryuta, mom is lying through her teeth. The girl appeared quite red from fury. Ryuta? His little girl was actually quite upset, which in a way seemed cute to him since she was pouting and was quite red like a beet. Izuku, what's wrong, Ryuta-chan? The freckled boy crouched down to the height of the girl who was holding her dress tightly. Ryuta, mom is being a fool for not worrying me, he continued, pouting. She needs to sleep and she needs help. His mother was quite surprised. Please help her, he bowed to the green-haired boy who smiled. Izuku, I see. He caressed the girl's hair who looked at him. I think you've done a very good thing by calling when you think there's danger, the girl continued with a pout, although she also felt proud to receive compliments. Why don't you go finish your breakfast while I help your mom, do you think? The girl nodded, walking towards the table waiting for her mother to receive help. Ryuko, I'm very sorry about this situation, Midoriya-san. My mind is elsewhere and I worried Ryuta a lot because of that. She looked at her daughter who was eating quite calmly. Izuku, don't worry, nothing is wrong. I'm glad nothing problematic happened. The woman smiled at the freckled boy who took a last look at the girl. Although if you want I can take care of everything while you take a nap. You look a little exhausted. The woman blushed a little from embarrassment. Ryuko, no need, Midoriya-san, although, thank you for offering, she smiled, trying to calm down. Izuku, sure, if you need anything you can always call me, it's a pleasure to help, he smiled without further ado, ready to leave. Ryuko, actually, her curiosity got the better of her. She was about to do something crazy. I would like to go somewhere one day to chat. There are certain things I would like to tell you. Izuku, this. Sure, he smiled tensely as he didn't see something like that coming. Ryuko, great. Without further ado the freckled boy left and she closed the door, sighing and falling to the floor. But what did I just do? Blushing beyond belief she questioned. Rumi honestly expected anything but what her friend did. She wanted to kick her ass for what she did, but somehow she wasn't doing it. She just watched as her friend paced back and forth in her office while judging herself for every moment she had done in front of Ryuta's babysitter just a week ago. It would be fun to watch if it wasn't a situation quite similar to what Ryuko experienced when she fell under Keigo's charms, although of course back then the damn blonde was trying to make his friend fall in love with her and this boy didn't seem to want to do that. Rumi, are you going to keep going around in circles or do I have to put you in your place? He asked with some irritation. Ryuko, I would like to tell you to go away, but right now I need your help. I don't know why I did that. I was about to go crazy at the situation. Rumi, you said the same thing when you went out with Mr. Pretty Eyes. She made fun of her friend who looked at her with some anger. Hey Rumi, I talked to Keigo and what do you think? I asked him out on a date. Well, not a date, but something similar. She mentioned her own friend who looked at her with annoyance. Ryuko, do you think I'll make the same mistake? The white-haired girl seemed to think about it even though she knew the answer well. Rumi. Rumi, what? That's what you're proving. You're making the same mistakes with a different fool, the blonde sighed. Ryuko, Rumi, do you really think I would mess with my daughter's babysitter? The white-haired girl looked at the ceiling thinking of a convincing answer. Do you really think I would do that? Rumi, maybe. Her friend glared at her. You can't blame me for thinking like that. You haven't had a date for a long time, and not only because you were taking care of Ryuta, you yourself decided to stay away for fear of what they might do to the girl. Maybe you're desperate. Ryuko, you are quite insufferable, you know that? Her friend smiled proudly. Well, this is what I will do. I will talk to Midoriya-san about what I need to talk about while you take care of Ryuta, okay? The white-haired girl nodded, looking at her phone. Rumi, sure, just make sure to bring ice cream for when you realize you want something with the living broccoli, he replied gracefully, making the blonde angry. Ryuko, I don't know what I'm going to do with you, she let out a sigh to amuse her friend. The blessed day arrived earlier than the blonde expected. Perhaps because she was nervous about what could happen, or perhaps because of her friend's words and she was truly interested in the boy that way. She knew better than anyone that she had long ago put aside her entire love life for her girl and had missed a lot because of that, but she didn't regret it. Besides, surely the green-haired boy didn't consider this as a date either. It wasn't specific enough so she could consider it a simple meeting with a direct employee, nothing more. Rumi, I thought you would look more beautiful for your date, she made fun of her friend who was finishing putting on her earrings. Ryuko, stop confusing things. I'm just going to chat with him. Her friend looked at her incredulously. Why do you think I'm so casual? She said proudly. Rumi, I don't know if those pants are very casual, you know? Her friend raised an eyebrow, confused. You know, it seems like you're going to. You know, she smiled mockingly at her friend who sighed. Ryuko, my pants are perfect and I'm not going to take advantage of a situation to take him to bed. I just want to talk to him. She crossed her arms angrily. And by the way, it's better for me to go. Without further ado she left the room, meeting her little girl who looked at her curiously. Ryuta, mommy, where are you going? His mother smiled at him and crouched down to his height. Ryuko, I'm just going to go talk to Midoriya-san, I'll be back soon, okay? The girl nodded slowly. While you stay with your silly Aunt Rumi, she caressed her little girl's hair, who smiled happily. Rumi, you're the fool here, she shouted from her friend's room. Ryuko, if something happens call, okay? The girl nodded again. Okay, I'm leaving. She walked towards the door to go to her non-date. The plan was to go out for a drink and chat to calm the doubts that Rumi had put about her, nothing more. It wasn't a date as such, or at least she didn't remember dates being like that, not that she had many at the time, but they could say that they were more elaborate than something like that. It wasn't a date. Despite convincing herself of it, she still felt nervous being there in a cafeteria that she liked, waiting for the green-haired man to arrive. She looked out the window quite anxiously and with a small tick as she touched the table with her finger in a tense manner. Because of her nerves, she had arrived a little earlier than she had said. Izuku, worrying doesn't suit you very well, Ryuko-san. The freckled man appeared with his calm smile that seemed to dispel his nerves. Ryuko, it's not just that. Well, she let out a sigh trying to calm down as the freckled boy sat in front of her. Rumi gave me ideas, it's not something to worry about. Izuku, from the little that was shown I think I should be worried, he joked a little, causing the blonde to laugh. Ryuko, don't believe me, it's just our nonsense, she smiled a little more calmly. Izuku, I understand, he smiled, settling himself better in the chair. Tell me, what did you want to talk to me about? The woman became a little tense, which was quite noticeable. Ryuko, it's related to what happened with Rumi. I didn't know how to start this conversation. Izuku, oh, did I do something that hurt her? Or something that could affect Ryuta-chan? He didn't want to cause trouble, he always tried to run away from them, but somehow they caught up with him. Ryuko, no, nothing like that. Rumi is much tougher than she seems and Ryuta only speaks wonders of you. No, it is something that Rumi noticed that I would like to talk about more than confirm it. The green-haired man tilted his head, somewhat confused. Izuku, what did his friend notice? He didn't quite understand everything. Ryuko, yes, she didn't know how the green-haired boy could take it, but she could put a before and after to how they got along. Midoriya-san has ever fought? A question that she considered quite soft to start. Izuku, oh, I guess Rumi-san has struggled a lot, right? He commented with grace. The truth is that I had my altercations when I was in high school and middle school. People tend to be very stupid in those years and they messed with me a lot. Luckily I didn't have many problems with the teachers. It wasn't something that made him happy, but he was able to get out of those situations without involving his parents. They already had a lot on their shoulders, so he shouldn't put more. Ryuko, I understand. That could explain the look that Rumi saw. The truth is that what she said made me think about many things. Izuku, what do you mean, things? He spoke tensely. I could see where this was going. Ryuko, oh, don't worry, it's not to stop hiring your babysitting service, it's more like I thought that I don't really know you well enough despite trusting you with my most precious treasure. I don't know you very well and I would like to know more about you. Izuku, oh, was that it? He let out a sigh, calming down. If I'm honest with you, Ryuko-san also causes me quite a few doubts, especially because of what happened with her ex and the reason why she is alone with Ryuta. The woman seemed quite tense. I understand that it is a very serious and quite personal matter, but when she spoke about it I noticed she was very bad. The woman looked at the table, quite focused on the freckled man's words. So if you are willing to talk to me, I am willing to give you exactly what you are looking for. He smiled, trying to calm the woman down. Ryuko, the truth is that it is something quite complicated, or well, that is how I see it. She thought about it for a while. Although it is true that I have not received advice about what happened for a long time, and Midoriya-san shows a lot of confidence. Maybe she was quite desperate. As Rumi said, I would like to hear your story and share my story. She smiled calmly at the freckled boy, who nodded. Lying on his bed, Izuku looked at the ceiling, remembering what the blonde had said in their extensive conversation they had. How whenever he heard stories like that he felt an emptiness in his stomach. He never liked infidelities and much less taking advantage, and hearing that it happened to such a good person only made his anger increase. It was out of pure willpower that he was in bed and not looking for the guy who hurt the blonde to make him suffer. Izuku, in the end Mina is right. I am a busybody, he commented, closing his eyes. He had a hero complex too marked inside him, but it is difficult for me not to help a person, he murmured, turning around and looking towards the window. What to do? He took out his phone from his pocket and began to look through his contacts, quickly reaching the one of the blonde he had spent the day with. What to do? Flashback. Ryuko, when I entered high school I met Keigo. He wasn't the most punctual student, but he was one of the smartest in the school. He always had a mysterious air around him as well as a good face. There were many girls after him, she commented with grace while drinking her coffee. Izuku, that's what attracted you? The woman nodded, looking at the cup. Ryuko, Keigo knew well what he caused and used it to his advantage. There were quite wild rumors about what he did both with girls and outside of school. He was the stereotypical bad boy from some movie. She let out a sigh, remembering those times. Izuku, did you believe those stories? The woman denied, taking another sip of the drink. Ryuko, I've always been quite skeptical about all the rumors. I didn't believe anything until I saw it, and with him it was no exception. The craziest thing I saw him do was convince a guy to give him a motorcycle in perfect condition. The blonde always had a silver tongue and he knew how to use it. Izuku, how did you end up with someone like that? He asked out of pure curiosity. Ryuko started with random questions that were asked in class about what I was doing. As they say, curiosity killed the cat, and in my case it led me to be with him. She spoke bitterly. I followed him a couple of times until he discovered me and we started chatting. Izuku also fell for her charms, didn't he? The blonde nodded with some embarrassment. Ryuko, at first I was very reluctant to what he said. He had a reputation as a womanizer and a girl hunter. Obviously he was an expert and I knew it, so I did my best to prevent any romantic feelings from arising, but she let out a sigh. Izuku failed to maintain his composure and ended up caught in her web. The blonde nodded again. Ryuko, her silver tongue served me well. I was weak to her flattery and details without realizing what she really wanted from me. She squeezed the cup with some force. Izuku, something about you? Apart from your body? He spoke with some nervousness and anger, quite well disguised. Ryuko, I guess you know, when you're in love you do crazy things for that love, even if it's the worst thing in the world. You do it for that happiness. A lot of that had happened, but it still hurt. I gave him free access to my money and he did whatever he wanted. I remembered well how I asked him for the money and how blind I was to see reality. Izuku, your parents didn't tell you anything? The woman lowered her gaze. Ryuko, I was always scolded for doing such crazy things, she said, smiling with quite a bit of melancholy. I was a complete idiot and I let him take a lot. He probably used that money for parties and women. He was unfaithful to me while I thought I was helping his father by being the purest and most honest person in the world. Izuku, how disgusting, he muttered while drinking coffee. Ryuko, you have no idea. She regretted her decisions of those days a lot. The worst thing was that we continued together for many years. I was blinded by love and he was happy to have a walking ATM. Izuku, I'm sorry. He put his hand on hers, trying to comfort her. Ryuko, it's the past, and even though I would like to change some things, it's not possible. She smiled a little more calmly. Anyway, I continued with that farce until we got to university and everything changed. Izuku, did you finally realize the truth? He commented with some grace, earning a negative response from the woman. Ryuko, not really. When we got to university I couldn't keep up the same pace. It was much more effort that I had to put in to continue, so halfway through my studies I decided that I didn't want to anymore and ended up moving in with me. She let out a sigh, tense from those days. Izuku, was it worse? The woman nodded, leaning back in her chair. Ryuko, it was worse than having a baby. There was a lot of mess and a lot of substances that shouldn't have been there, yet there I was cleaning up after him while he was talking to other girls on the phone. Izuku, never thought about leaving? The blonde shook her head with clear sadness. Ryuko, I thought I could make him change, that if I tried hard to make it work everything would be better, that we would have a better life. How naive I was. She remembered when she had her daughter and she was quite scared. Izuku, how did you get out of that situation? He clenched his fists with a lot of anger. Ryuko, Mom and Dad took me out of that apartment and took me far away from him. I remember being so desperate to get out of that situation that I didn't refute them anything. She smiled, remembering her mother's cooking and the games she played with her father. Izuku, did he get out of that situation now that he had Ryuta? The woman nodded quite happily. Ryuko, when they came for me, a few days had passed since my first and only time with Keigo. I guess he enjoyed any girl other than me more for intimacy. That did hurt him a little at the time, but now it didn't matter much. That was what brought me back to reality. Izuku, was he aggressive? He asked seriously. He didn't like where things were going. Ryuko, more than that, he assumed that he already had experience and did it savagely. I barely remember anything good about that night beyond crying and begging him not to come inside. I was scared and he wasn't in his right mind, although I suppose that even in his right mind it wouldn't be something enjoyable. She mocked a little, trying to relax. Izuku, Ryuko-san. The freckled man took her hand, trying to calm the woman down. Calm down. She's here with me. He smiled as if nothing was happening, letting the woman get lost in his gaze. Ryuko, after that I had Ryuta and I went to court to get full custody of him. They originally denied it to me. Keigo knew how to win over the jury, so we had shared custody. Izuku, I guess he did something wrong. The woman nodded, lightly squeezing the freckled boy's hand. Ryuko, it wasn't more than 3 months when they called me from the hospital. They had found Ryuta in bad condition in Keigo's apartment while he was in a motel with a woman. When they did tests on him they showed that he was intoxicated with many things, so he went to prison. That part was good despite feeling endless anguish for his little girl. Izuku, and you had full custody of Ryuta-chan? The woman nodded with a smile. Ryuko, he was in prison for a while, but you see, he's been released and I doubt he'll sit back and do nothing. She looked at the table again with some fear. I don't want him to take Ryuta. I'm afraid of what he can do to him. End of flashback. Izuku, whatever happens, I'm going to help her. Ryuko-san, he promised, looking at his phone. I guess I do have a bit of a hero complex, he murmured, feeling his eyelids heavy. She felt her shoulders tense even after a bath as long as the one she had taken. She was taken by surprise not only by the calmness with which the green-haired boy had listened to the story without stopping to question it too much, she was also surprised to hear the freckled boy's experiences, and that was even though she thought that the things worse than falling in love with Keigo were listed. Stopping thinking about it, she got out of the tub and with a towel began to dry her hair and face while letting her worries go down the drain while thinking a lot more about the freckled man and his crazy story that he had told. Ryuko, now I understand why Rumi is so afraid of him. Without further ado she stood up, taking another towel to wrap herself and leaving her personal bathroom directly to her bed. If she had any idea of fighting I would also be afraid of him, she commented, letting out a soft sigh before putting on her pajamas. Despite that, he is someone extremely admirable and kind. She smiled calmly as she lay down on the bed, quite tired from the day. Flashback. Izuku, I don't consider my story to be as amazing as other people's, but I did have my ups and downs. He smiled, playing with the already empty cup of coffee in front of him. Mom and Dad always tried hard for me to a point that is impossible for me to think about. We weren't the richest people, but we lived well. They were even able to enroll me in a fairly prestigious academy in order to give me a good future. Ryuko, a private academy? Wow, they are quite impressive. The green-haired boy nodded proudly. Izuku, unfortunately the children of that time did not think the same. Being a well-known academy, there were children with better situations than ours and they bragged about it daily to the point of doing all kinds of stupid things to make me look ridiculous. He let out a rather tense sigh at those memories. I always tried not to let it affect me, but it was impossible. Ryuko, did they hurt you physically? The freckled boy thought about it carefully. If it is such a delicate subject, I don't think it is right to continue talking about it. He didn't want to make the green-haired boy uncomfortable. Izuku, it's not that. Every time I remember what happened I'm surprised at what I did, that's all. He smiled calmly. Surprising the woman, I always treated them quite well. I never wanted to raise my hand to them or start fights. I didn't want to be kicked out of that school for making a fuss. Ryuko, until what? The freckled boy laughed. It was clear that there was a but. Izuku, one day the spotlight was on a girl who, like me, was there because of the efforts of her parents. She became the focus very quickly and they took things too far too soon. Remembering that always brought back a mix of quite strong emotions. Ryuko, by very far he means she spoke tensely, not wanting to believe that children could reach that level. Izuku, not so far away. They wanted to hit her with rocks and stuff, so I got in between them and the girl. I started a fight to defend her and one of them ended up in the infirmary. It was a pretty strong blow. Ryuko, did they expel him? The freckled boy denied. Izuku, nothing happened to me. The kids did get a punishment and after that they tried to fight me again, so we inevitably ended up in front of the principal again. Ryuko, luck wasn't much on your side, was it? The freckled boy let out a giggle. Izuku, at that time no, he remembered with some bitterness. Over the years it became normal to find myself fighting with one or more boys and even with senpais simply for any nonsense. Ryuko, did you ever call your parents? The freckled boy nodded with some embarrassment. Izuku, fortunately for me, my grades served as a defense measure for expulsion. My parents were still called and of course I was punished for some things. Ryuko, I guess no one gets away with anything for long, huh? Joked with the green-haired boy who let out a giggle. Izuku, I guess it's true. Fortunately I got out of there not only being one of the best but also learning to defend myself in case of emergency. That explained what happened with Rumi. Although it's been a long time since I fought someone, for some time now whenever I face someone who really wants to hit someone they stop when they see me. Ryuko, it may be his presence. The freckled man tilted his head, somewhat confused. I think from the reaction he caused in Rumi that his presence is quite intimidating when it comes to fighting. So much so that people think about it before really getting involved. Izuku, I guess you might be right, although it sounded very silly from his point of view. Ryuko, do you remember the last time you hit someone? The freckled boy nodded quite confidently. Izuku, at university when I was starting there was a guy bothering my friend Melissa. That idiot may have been under the influence of alcohol or some drug because of his incoherent speech, but he was definitely looking for trouble. Ryuko, how did that fight end? It's clear that you won, but how did the guy end up? The more they talked, the more curious the blonde became. Izuku, I do remember that quite well, although I'm not proud of it. He ended up in the hospital with quite a few head injuries. That time I had managed to make him fall before hitting his head so many times that his knuckles filled with blood. Ryuko, think carefully about what Midoriya-san said. She commented somewhat incredulously about this innocent part of the green-haired boy. Izuku, I don't see how. He paused for a moment, reliving things and especially how he kept hitting despite his rival's obvious unconsciousness. Oh, the woman shook her head with some grace. Wow. Ryuko, I guess you got used to them being aggressive in fights with you and you had no choice but to return the same treatment. The freckled boy looked at the table, remembering every beating he had ever received in his life. It's not so bad if you ask me. The green-haired boy looked at him quite curiously. Izuku, I doubt I can feel good about beating people until they are unrecognizable. He didn't like that part of himself. Ryuko, he never raised a hand against someone innocent, right? The freckled boy shook his head with his gaze downcast. Then I don't think it was wrong to defend himself in such a way. Many may consider him a monster or something horrible, but I know Midoriya-san that what he did was right. He took the freckled boy by the hand and smiled at him. Izuku, thank you for your vote of confidence. Ryuko-san smiled happily at the woman who smiled somewhat blushed. End of flashback. Ryuko, we all have our own demons, a phrase that her mother repeated a lot when Ryuko was little and didn't understand certain people. I can surely help you to lessen yours. Smiling, she looked at the window in complete calm. Don't worry Midoriya-san, from now on you have someone to help you. She spoke to the sky, quite tired. The day had been quite pleasant, although quite demanding for her mind. She could only hope that tomorrow would be better. As it was already becoming a habit, the freckled boy was in Tatsuma's apartment taking care of the dragon girl, who was always vibrant with curiosity, although today was quite different. She was being quite cold and looking quite angrily at the freckled boy without wanting to talk to him about anything. She even stayed in her room playing with her toys instead of in the living room learning about dragons and other mythical creatures with the green-haired boy, and it was quite disconcerting. Izuku, is something wrong, Ryuta-chan? The girl was eating grapes with a pout, quite angry. I notice you're very ill. Ryuta, I don't like you. Izuku, he turned his gaze, eating another grape and surprising the green-haired boy. Izuku, did I do something that put you in a bad mood? He spoke calmly, trying not to let his fear show. Ryuta-chi. You want to steal my mom, accused the freckled boy who was paralyzed. Izuku, eh? The girl pouted, turning quite red with rage. Can you explain to me why you think that? He smiled tensely at the girl. Ryuta, they went to eat alone, accused the freckled boy who smiled more calmly. I won't let anyone take mommy, she said with a seriousness rarely seen in her. Izuku, I'm sorry you came to that conclusion. Ryuta-chan stroked the girl's hair, who was still pouting. How about next time the three of us go out, what do you think? The girl's eyes lit up. Ryuta, yes, hugged the green-haired boy who hugged him back. Izuku, well, it's a promise, okay? The girl nodded in the hug. Ryuta, but don't take my mommy, he spoke again seriously, melting the freckled boy with tenderness. Izuku, that's impossible. Ryuta-chan, no one but your mother can give you so much love, and if something were to happen I'm pretty sure she'll become the most powerful dragon to go after you. The girl looked at him impressed. Ryuta, mom can turn into a dragon? Like in the story you told me? The green-haired boy laughed. Izuku, your mother will do whatever it takes to protect you. Ryuta-chan has the conviction to do whatever it takes for her little girl. The girl smiled happily to have the most fantastic mother on the planet. The mother was a little stressed at work, or to be more precise, stressed by the food she was having. In order to improve her relationship with one of the investors, she agreed to go to lunch with him, believing that they would talk about some concern she had or something that didn't seem so optimal in her opinion, but instead she was on a kind of date with the investor, who was smiling as if he had won the lottery with his stupid plan. Enjoy our meal, Ryuko-san? He said, smiling and arrogant. He expected a lot from this outing, especially getting close to one of the richest and most influential women of the moment. Ryuko, to be honest, I was expecting a more fruitful conversation, she commented quite seriously and coldly. Profitable, in what way? Of course, he was so blinded by his own arrogance that he understood something totally different from what the blonde was referring to. Ryuko, I thought I had some ideas to improve our projects, but since this was for nothing, it was just a waste of time. She got up ready to leave that restaurant. She was wasting a lot of time. Don't wait, Ryuko-san. He hurried to follow the blonde. He really believed that things were going well with the woman. Ryuko, really? That's stupid, she muttered, walking angrily. Wait, Ryuko-san. He managed to take her hand, increasing the blonde's anger. Ryuko, you've already talked a lot, don't you think? I have things to do, she said as calmly as she could at that moment, despite wanting to hit the guy. I really think you should reconsider the idea of us going out more unless you want something bad to happen with your company, he smiled, believing he had the blonde in a bad position. Ryuko, wow. Will you use the fact of being an investor just to make it yours? I'm sorry, but I don't care if he's my investor, the most famous actor in the world, or even the most perfect being in creation. I'm not interested. The guy was surprised, which the blonde took advantage of to get out of his grip. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get another investor. Without further ado, she began to walk, assuming this chaos as if nothing happened. Do you really think you can reject me? He shouted angrily. No woman had ever rejected him before. You know I can ruin your company, right? Ryuko, do whatever you want. I'm sure the one who will end up badly off will be you. She looked over her shoulder with a certain superiority. Don't think I don't know the rumors that are after you. And if you want to keep your fortune, I recommend calming down. The guy looked at her in astonishment before getting angry. You don't know anything about me. The woman smiled sideways as she turned around. Ryuko, I know he's in trouble for certain dealings with certain girls that weren't exactly very legal. Left the idea to the subject's imagination. That is a false accusation and I have already proven it, he defended himself arrogantly. Ryuko, yes, but there are already eyes on you and I am totally clean, which means that if something were to happen, justice would doubt you and would be more on my side, right? The man sweated coldly at what the blonde mentioned. What would happen then? How many companies would turn their backs on you simply because of said scandal? She acted quite innocently, as if it were natural to do this. TSK, he clenched his fists in anger, he was cornered. What does she want? He said, accepting what the woman said. Ryuko, this is what will happen, you will stop being an investor in my company immediately, I will not talk about absolutely anything that has been said today and we will both go our own ways. The guy nodded. It was something quite simple, but if you happen to cross paths with me in any way, I will make sure that people know what kind of person they are dealing with. Understood, he muttered with contained rage. Ryuko, well. I'm glad to clear things up. With a sly smile she left, leaving the irritated guy in the middle of the street. Her day had been ruined and that was easily seen by anyone who crossed her path. Her icy gaze could paralyze anyone who stood in front of her. It was a much longer day than she expected, but it was finally over and she was in front of her house, tired and quite irritated by everything. The worst thing was that she still had to make dinner and get Ryuta to sleep before preparing everything for tomorrow. She didn't even want to think about tomorrow since she wanted to teach Ryuta and that would take a long time. She let out a sigh and opened the door to her house, and immediately a rather good smell reached her nose, almost relaxing her. Surprised, she left her things in the living room and walked towards the kitchen, admiring her daughter eating a plate of katsudon in the dining room while the babysitter hummed something in the kitchen. Ryuko, what's happening? She spoke in a daze, drawing the attention of both of them there. Ryuta, mommy. The little girl got down from the chair and hugged her mother's legs. Ryuko, hello Ryuta, she smiled, stroking her little girl's hair. Izuku, welcome home. Ryuko-san smiled with a ladle in hand. I'm glad you arrived safely. Ryuko, what is Midoriya-san doing? The freckled boy smiled, leaving the ladle aside, taking a pot and walking with it to the table. Izuku, I assumed you would arrive exhausted after a day of work, so with the help of Ryuta-chan we decided to make a perfect dinner for you. He delicately placed the pot on the table, smiling at the woman. I would have liked to prepare something much more sophisticated, but the only thing I know how to prepare is katsudon. I'm sorry about that. Ryuko, don't worry, I appreciate the gesture. She smiled, dazed by this show of gratitude. Ryuta, I helped make it, she said proudly of herself. Ryuko, really? Then we better eat it. She took her daughter and sat down with her, smelling the food. It smells delicious. Ryuta, try it, mom. The woman took a little on a plate, looking lovingly at the preparation. Ryuko, enjoy. She took a single bite, feeling her problems disappear. That's delicious, she spoke with her mouth full. Izuku, would you like something to drink? The woman nodded happily. Ryuko, there is some wine in the cupboard. I would like a glass. The green-haired boy nodded and went to the kitchen. Join me to eat. Ryuta, the girl nodded, sitting down again and eating what she had left on the plate. Izuku, here you go. He put the glass in front of the woman, who smiled, taking a sip. And this for Ryuta-chan. He put a glass next to his mother's. Ryuta, thanks. Without further ado he continued eating, making the freckled boy smile. Ryuko, but don't stay there. Midoriya-san, eat too. The freckled boy was a little embarrassed. Izuku, I don't think it's right. It's a family dinner between the two of us. I'm fine, he smiled, pleased to help. Ryuko, what are you talking about? Come on, eat too. You'll make me feel bad if you don't. The freckled boy let out a sigh, shaking his head before sitting in front of mother and daughter. Izuku, enjoy. Without further ado he served on his plate and began to eat with mother and daughter, looking like a very happy family. Looking at the situation Keigo was in, he began to plot his little plan to obtain a good life, and in case he couldn't achieve the first one, he had the second plan quite perfected, although that would surely take him much more time, and at the moment he didn't have the patience for that. He still had a fresh memory of the police entering the motel room, while he was quite high with the escort girl. They arrested him on the spot for negligence and he ended up in jail. He should have a hatred towards the gossipy neighbors who reported Ryuta crying, but that was not his way of being. He let it go and served his sentence as it should be, and boy was it hell, but he made it. And until recently, when he managed to get out, he needed a lot of money to get back in the game. He knew that his ex was very successful and he knew that he could get a lot out of it, but he didn't want to take care of the girl. It would slow him down too much. It's a weight that would take a lot of weight off him, and it wasn't what he wanted. But if it was what he needed to have what he wanted, he would gladly play at being a father to society while he decided what to do with the brat. And in case that doesn't work, he could always fall in love with Ryuko again, even if it takes too much time. He was very confident in his knowledge of women and knew well which points to attack to make them his. It might not work so well with Ryuko since she knew his maneuvers and would surely be cold to what he tried, as he had already demonstrated, so if he was going to go down that path it would take him a long time and he couldn't allow it, so he had to do the first thing. For this he needed the right tools and start by getting part of Ryuta's custody. That was good for two reasons: not only to get easy money from his ex, he could also use that custody to show Ryuko that he was a changed man and it was a good idea to continue their relationship. For that he had to convince a lot of people and do very boring things that he didn't like at all, so he contacted an old acquaintance who he knew had good contacts that he could use. But what do my eyes see? Old Keigo back in action? In the middle of a seedy bar, the blonde looked at an old acquaintance from Crazy Adventures. Keigo, hello Dabi, we haven't seen each other for years. He smiled at his black-haired friend who sat next to him. Toya, it's been forever since you called. What does the big falcon need now? He mocked his friend who smiled as calmly as always. I heard that you just got out of prison? I almost didn't believe it when I heard it the first time. Thinking about you being in a cell is downright funny. He continued his mockery a little longer. Keigo, just a small mistake. He commented as if what had happened was nothing. Now I need to get a lot of money and I know how to do it, but I need some help for it. The black-haired man raised an eyebrow, curious about what the blonde was saying. Toya, it seems strange to me that the first word that didn't come out of your mouth was give me money. He let out a sigh, looking around with some caution. Now what do you need? Keigo, do you still keep in touch with your father? His friend looked serious for a few seconds. Toya, I know you usually do impossible things, but this is something very out of place. He spoke with some anger. You know perfectly well that I will never talk to that stupid person again. Keigo, and I know he would do anything to reconcile with you, like helping one of your friends with their problems. The black-haired man didn't seem happy with that idea. Toya, I don't think you can convince me with that. The blonde smiled sideways. He had the perfect idea. Keigo, when I get the money, I can pay you with a good night with so many girls that it's going to burn you down there, plus I'll buy all the merchandise you have for the next 10 months. The black-haired man hesitated and the blonde knew it. What do you say? Toya, you are a bastard with a very convincing mouth. He smiled sideways. Deal. They shook hands, sealing their destiny. Toya's father, or as Dabi always made himself known, was a rather serious and cold man who had made many mistakes throughout his life. He had done a lot of harm in pursuit of his ideology of justice that seemed to blind him at the time when he was younger. A judge who wanted to purge as much evil as possible, who did not seem comfortable with anything and who, to top it off, had an almost perfect streak of cases. Sadly, by being so focused on his goal, he had left a lot aside, especially his family and his children, which led to one of them ending up on the wrong path. It was one of his faults as a judge as well, given that it was his son. The first time he had him in front of the court, he allowed him to leave despite having quite problematic charges. He hoped to be able to lead him in the right path, but he did not succeed. He only pushed his first son further into the ground. That fractured his family more than he believed. His second son began to hate him and blame him not only for never being there, but also for how Toya ended up. His wife, while trying not to say much about it, it was clear that she felt pretty horrible for her son. She never blamed her husband since she also felt guilty for not stopping him enough. His daughter also had great doubts about her father's abilities. Although she was not one to blame him directly, she simply distanced herself from her father, not recognizing him after years away from him. When her fourth son arrived, she tried to improve things a little. Even when her eldest son got out of prison, she tried to get them to join, but he, with his fresh hatred, wanted nothing to do with them. Even so, Todoroki Enji did not give up and always tried to gain the trust of his son that he had lost a long time ago. Mainly because of his son, he did everything necessary to be able to win it, and as the years went by he began to lose hope. Toya knew it well. His father would do anything to get him back into the family, maybe because he wanted some redemption or whatever. He didn't care at all what the old man had to say. He was just an idiot who abandoned him when he was in danger and left him at the mercy of the police with too many drugs to sell. Although he received many visits from him when he was serving his sentence, the truth is that he didn't want anything from him, until now. With just one call from his father, he had to be as convincing as possible. It was true that Enji would do anything for his son, but he highly doubted that he would agree to use his influence to take someone's daughter away from him. There was still a curtain of principles that he would not go through, which should make the old man doubt that the woman was being deficient with the girl, and he did not believe that it would be easy. Toya, here we go. He let out a sigh as he dialed the reckless number, waiting tensely for them to answer. Yes? His father's voice paralyzed him for a second. Toya, hello Todoroki, he spoke with the confidence that always characterized him, hoping to convince his father. Mina, I feel like something bad is going to happen, she said, leaning back in her chair. Izuku, huh? Why? He got a little nervous because of his friend's serious look. Mina, why haven't they called to ask for the green bush that became the best babysitter in the area? The green-haired boy blinked in disbelief. Izuku, I think you're exaggerating. Mina, the pink-haired woman, denied, quite sure of her words. Mina, no, no, no. It's true, you are one of the main reasons why we receive so many children to take care of. It is true that we now have a larger staff, but you have not stopped being quite influential. The fact that we do not receive requests for you can mean something very, very bad. She exaggerated a little, leaving her friend tense. Izuku, why don't you just calm down and think with a cool head? He took his friend's hand and made her sit down. You've worked harder than anyone for this. You've put effort into making everything this way, and I only pushed for that. Besides, it's not so bad. Sooner or later I'll have to continue on my path and you'll have to continue on your own. His friend let out a sigh, somewhat sad at that outcome. Mina, I can't convince you no matter how much I increase your salary, right? She asked playfully. Izuku, you know it's not just about the money, I also have goals and projects that I want to do. He stroked his friend's hair, trying to comfort her, but I can say that I'll be just a phone call away. Mina, thanks for always being their hero. The freckled boy rolled his eyes. Izuku, yes, whatever you say. He gave her more caresses on the head before her phone rang. Huh? Ryuko-san. Mina, oh, she smiled mockingly at her distracted friend. You know there's a policy for dating clients, right? We don't want to get involved in other people's relationships. She continued her mockery, hoping to upset the freckled boy, but he looked quite worried. Something's wrong, Midori-kun? Izuku, it's Ryuta-chan, she's sick. He didn't even think about leaving. We'll talk later. Without further ado, he left the room, leaving the pink-haired girl quite worried. Mina, I hope the girl is not too bad. It was never nice to see sick children, much less so late. On the way to Ryuko's house, his brain began to make many speculations about what could be happening there, almost reaching exaggeration. He knew that Ryuta had no allergies, so something he ate, inhaled or touched could not affect him. It could be the most common thing in the world, like a common flu. How could it be the worst thing that could happen to the girl and her mother? The possibilities were too many and he was too excited to think clearly, so he simply went as quickly as possible to help the girl and the mother, who was probably scared about how her daughter was doing. Of course, when he arrived it was a completely different scene than he expected. When Ryuko opened the door, she didn't look very scared or nervous. She was quite normal, and even with all the calm in the world she let him in and look at the girl who was in her bed, with a red face and heavy breathing. He could see how she was sweating from her position and the frown she was making, surely due to the discomfort she was having. Izuku, how is she? He looked at the blonde mother who approached her little girl, caressing her hair. Ryuko, I managed to get her to fall asleep, but for now she is stable. She continued caressing her little girl's hair, who stirred a little. I gave her medicine and made sure to lower her temperature. Izuku, do you know what caused it? He approached the girl and gently took her hand. Did he eat something? Did he go out without a coat? Did he play somewhere that might have something? Ryuko, Midoriya-san, calm down. She smiled tenderly at the green-haired boy, who turned red in embarrassment. It's just a cold. I know how to treat it, she said with a rather fake smile. Izuku, I'm sorry, it's just that. I've never been good with topics like this. He smiled nervously, causing the woman to laugh. Ryuko, I appreciate that concern, and the truth is that for a moment she seemed to get worse, but she is improving. She smiled, looking at her daughter. In truth, for a moment she even cried, and I was alarmed. That was when I wrote to her. The green-haired man looked at her in astonishment. I considered calling Rumi, but I know she would go crazy and would not help me. Izuku, I understand. He smiled at the woman. Thank you for considering me an option, Ryuko-san. Ryuko, I don't have many acquaintances who know about Ryuta, and I've seen firsthand that you are someone quite dedicated to helping. I'm glad I found you, she smiled innocently, making the freckled boy blush. Izuku, it's nothing. He spoke quite nervously. Ryuta, mommy, the girl murmured, opening her eyes somewhat dazed. Ryuko, I'm here, darling, she smiled, caressing her little girl's hair. Everything's okay. She gave her a kiss on the forehead, making the little girl go back to sleep. Izuku, it would be best to go out and let her rest, took the blonde's hand, calming her down a little. Ryuko, sure. They both went out for something to drink. It was late and a bit cold. I'm sorry if I worried you too much. I really thought you needed help. Izuku, it's better to be cautious. It could have been worse, and as I told you, I'll always be there to help you. Ryuko-san drank the tea that the woman had prepared. Ryuko, I hope I haven't interrupted whatever you were doing or your sleeping hours. I know firsthand how horrible it is to not get enough sleep. The green-haired boy shook his head. Izuku, don't worry. I was just talking to Mina about the babysitting service and how things are stabilizing. The woman smiled more calmly after hearing this. It's been quite a long few months hiring a lot of people, and it's finally bearing fruit. Ryuko, I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure the people there put in as much dedication as you do. The freckled boy smiled, embarrassed to be flattered. Izuku, most are very dedicated to taking care of children, but to be honest, I don't consider myself that dedicated. It's just that I always give 100% of myself when doing things. He spoke calmly. Besides, it's not like I'm there for a long time. It's only for the money that Mina can give me, so I don't think she can flatter me for that. Ryuko, are you planning to stop this? When? She spoke worriedly. She doubted very much that her daughter would accept a babysitter other than Izuku. Izuku, don't worry, there's still time for that to happen, but it's something that will inevitably happen that didn't seem to relax the woman. Ryuko, we all have our goals and you have to follow yours, even so it's a shame that you don't continue taking care of the children, you have a very good hand with them. The freckled boy let out a laugh. Izuku, they tell me that often, but it's not what I want to do. Spoke quite seriously. Ryuko, what are you planning? Midoriya-san, I mean, if it's not a clear secret, I didn't want to be too intrusive in the green-haired boy's life. Izuku, there are projects that mom and dad had that they left for me, projects that I would like to develop, and for that I need many things. He smiled, remembering his dream. I'm sorry I can't say more, but it's still early to say it. He looked determinedly at the woman, who was more curious. Don't worry, Ryuko-san will be the first one outside of my parents that I will inform when I achieve my goal. Ryuko, in that case, I fully support you in everything you plan. Midoriya-san, I know it will be quite incredible and good coming from someone so determined. They both looked at each other with quite renewed spirits without knowing what was being born deep inside both of them. Enji Todoroki was in a very serious dilemma thanks to the call from his eldest son. It left many questions in the air with the case of that guy named Keigo. The main one was his relationship with Toya, and although he could be a close friend to his son, it seemed more like he was using him for something. He didn't quite have the arrangements or deals that those two had made, but it was giving him a bad feeling. He had worked enough on shady cases to develop a sixth sense that told him when things weren't going well, and this was the case. His son was hiding something from him and he knew he wasn't going to tell him. He tried to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and investigated the man named Keigo, and truth be told, his doubts were partly confirmed rather quickly. The man's case was not something that sounded much to him. It was the typical case of a playful idiot who didn't know how children were carried and believed that things were done with magic. What did catch his attention, or at least Enji's, were the drugs that had been found in Keigo's room and on his body, or well, some of all the ones there were, because the clown had the idea of making with his body a cocktail of everything that can enter your nose and your veins. Some of those drugs had also been found in his son, both in his possession and in his system. How he recognized her was quite easy, the reports detailed it. Even with all that information, he was still hesitating whether to help his son. Maybe this was all a plan to take advantage of something related to Keigo, but on the other side of the coin, maybe the guy really learned his lesson and is trying to redeem himself. It wouldn't be the craziest thing that had ever crossed Enji's desk. He had to think it over carefully, because if he were to make the mistake, he would condemn an innocent girl to one of the worst tortures. Ray, something is wrong with you. Of course his wife noticed it, and when they were finally going to sleep, she decided to talk about it, as always when something was wrong. Enji, Toya called, he revealed calmly, leaving his wife quite in shock. He wants my help with something, and the truth is I don't know if I should do it. He took off his tie, feeling much calmer. Ray, what happened this time? She left the book she was reading on the table next to the bed and paid attention to her husband. Enji, as always, he asks for impossible things, although this time it sounds more impossible. He turned to look at his wife, who seemed quite nervous. Ray, last time he wanted you to get him out of jail even though his guilt was clear. Her husband looked at the bed, pondering the options. Enji, Toya got lost a long time ago. You have tried by all possible means to reach him and he has always refused. Maybe it is time to leave him. She put her hand on her husband's to calm him down. Enji, he is still my son. It doesn't matter if I have to put my hand in lava to pull him out half dead, I would do it without hesitation. He put his other hand on his wife's, feeling comforted, but this time he wants to separate a girl from her mother because his friend and father of the girl has supposedly changed. Ray, and you don't think he did it right? The redhead denied seriously. Enji, people like that guy hardly change and only do so when they truly hit rock bottom like no other person on the planet. He knew guys like that well, he had sent them to prison countless times. Ray, Enji, the woman caught her partner's gaze. Don't break up a family to rebuild the family that broke down a long time ago and has no solution. We made mistakes, yes, but he made them too. Her husband still looked quite confused. Are you willing to leave a girl in bad hands just for a son who has already turned his back on you on multiple occasions? Enji, no. His wife smiled. It's not fair to bring anyone outside into all this, and I can't help Toya with whatever he's doing. His wife gave him a kiss on the cheek and lay back. Thanks for making me see reason, Ray. Ray, sometimes you can be a hopeless fool, that's why I'm here to stop you. She smiled before trying to sleep, so her husband left to make the call to his son. It was the right choice. He couldn't do what his son expected, as much as it hurt him to have to deny him something. This went far beyond his limits. His wife was absolutely right. At this point it was no longer worth repairing this relationship that was so fractured. Enji, he's going to take it very badly. He tried to relax as best as possible for this call. It wouldn't be easy at all. Toya, hi Dad. I didn't expect you to call so soon. He spoke calmly and as affectionately as he could. He was sure he convinced his old man. Enji, yes. Hello Toya, he said seriously, I regret to inform you that I cannot help with your friend. There was no response from his son, or at least not immediately. Toya, any specific reason? He said angrily, I'm your son, how can you not support me this time? He tried to manipulate that part of his father like years ago, only this time it was totally different. Enji, listen carefully Toya, this friend of yours went to prison for 4 years for negligence. He was found in a bad state far from where he was supposed to be, and you're telling me that he changed overnight and that he loves his daughter when he never showed any remorse or any effort to see her even though he was in prison? There was silence again. I'm sorry, but until he proves that he has truly changed and proves that he can support his daughter, I doubt that anyone will accept this case, and even if they do accept it, the worst will always be expected of him. For a moment he forgot that he was talking to his son and acted as if he were talking to anyone else. Toya, if Keigo shows that he has changed, is there a chance? He was already beginning to plot another plan. Enji, it's the standard, but I repeat, no matter what he does, he will always be in the spotlight if he ever gets the girl he spoke seriously, hoping to make the idiot he had for a son see reason. I don't know what Toya is planning, but think with a cool head, it could end badly for both him and you. His last warning to his son. Toya, if I doubt it, all I want is to reunite a family. It was a clear lie. Enji, you're never going to change, right? He said bitterly, I doubt you want to do that, and if they manage to bring the woman to trial, believe me, I'll do everything in my power to get the truth out. Without further ado he hung up the call and let out a sigh. Ray, you did the right thing. She touched her husband's shoulder, who looked quite sad. Enji, he let out a sigh, I'm so sorry. Ray, it's the past Enji, things have already changed. She took her husband by the hand to take him to the room. We have all moved forward, and if Toya continues in the same way at this point, it is no longer our problem or our responsibility. He is an adult and can do things on his own. Her husband nodded slowly. Enji, thank you for being there for me. Ray, he smiled sideways, which was the most he would show that day. Ray, don't even mention it, smiled fondly, praying that nothing bad would happen with this situation. On Saturday afternoon both Ryuko and her little girl were having a great day. On Saturdays she loved to go out with Ryuta to some nearby restaurant to eat something, so that the little girl wouldn't feel like the apartment was a prison. She would love to go out more with her little girl, but she always ran the risk that Keigo would show up and make a scandal. She didn't want that about Ryuta. It was hard enough having to explain to her about her father and why he wasn't with her. She hadn't lied to her by any means, she just avoided the subject, and Ryuta seemed pretty calm in ignoring that fact, so she didn't have any problems, or at least that for the moment. Every now and then she would ask about Keigo and Ryuko didn't know how to answer her. Ryuko, what did you think of the food, Ryuta? She asked upon entering the house. Ryuta, it was delicious, she said, half asleep. She was so full that she wanted to sleep. Ryuko, very well my little big dragon, it's time for your nap. She took her little girl in her arms and went to the room, quite happy that the day did not become stressful. Ryuta, mommy, can I ask you something? He murmured, clinging to his mother. Ryuko, whatever darling, spoke tenderly before leaving her on the bed. Ryuta, Ishiku said that the three of us would go somewhere. She yawned, leaving the blonde quite surprised. I want the three of us to go, she murmured before falling asleep in her bed. Ryuko, rest sweetheart. She gave her a kiss on the forehead, put a blanket on her and left, quite curious about what her little girl had said, so when she left the room the first thing she did was call her friend Midoriya-san. Izuku, oh Ryuko-san, what a surprise that you called. He heard on the other end of the phone, is something wrong? Is Ryuta-chan sick again? Her concern made him smile. It was nice to have someone who cared about his little girl besides her. Ryuko, no, she's fine. In fact, today she ate so much that she's taking a nap. The green-haired man on the other end of the phone let out a sigh, although she's part of the reason I called. Izuku, sure, what does Ryuta-chan need? He spoke animatedly, willing to help the girl. Ryuko, did Ryuta say anything to you about going out somewhere? She commented as she sat in her living room looking out the window. Izuku, oh that. His tone changed to something more nervous, which seemed totally strange to the blonde. Yes. After our outing that Saturday, he left a moment for the woman to process the information. That day was not easy for either of them. Ryuko, please tell me you didn't say something stupid, she muttered in embarrassment. Izuku, no, of course not. It's just that the following week when I was taking care of her she was angry because we went out alone without her. The woman stopped her thoughts listening to the boy. She didn't like being excluded, so I told her that sometime the three of us would go out. The blonde was almost speechless with that. Ryuko, I understand. She tried to sound calm, but it was obvious that she was more emotional. Did he say something else? She let out a sigh, trying to calm down. Izuku, nothing more. He waited for the blonde to answer, but nothing. Ryuko-san? Ryuko, this. She wandered for a moment thinking about that exit. She was getting nervous. Izuku, would you like us to go somewhere with Ryuta-chan? He sounded as calm as possible so as not to upset the blonde further. Ryuko, I don't want to bother you with that, you already do a lot taking care of Ryuta, so I don't want to ask you for more, she said with a blush on her cheeks. Surely you have better things to do than spend time with a woman and her daughter, she commented with some sadness. Izuku, Ryuko-san, he spoke incredulously, you're my friend, I'm not saying that you should pay me to go somewhere with your daughter. I want to go out with you and Ryuta-chan, he said calmly, surprising the blonde. The last time we went out I had a great time, and the truth is I was waiting for you to be free so we could continue chatting as much as the first time. With each word the blonde blushed more. It's fun talking to you and it's fun being with Ryuta-chan, so please, he begged, making the blonde smile. Ryuko, oh come on, she tried to calm down but she didn't seem to be able to. Okay Midoriya-san, you win. Let's go out this Sunday with Ryuta, she smiled, looking at the sky through the window with a smile on her face. Izuku, sounds perfect to you, he said calmly, in fact I think I know where to go. Ryuko, really? She spoke with emotion. Where? Izuku, I'm sorry Ryuko-san, but you'll have to wait until Sunday to find out, he said in a mocking tone. Ryuko, oh come on. You're so bad, she muttered with a pout, making the freckled boy on the other end of the line laugh. Give me at least a clue. Izuku, I can't, I have to confirm things before I go, the blonde continued with a pout, not wanting to accept defeat. Calm down Ryuko-san, it will be fun. Ryuko, whatever you say. Mr. Mystery made fun of the freckled boy, who let out a laugh. Izuku, eh? Did not quite understand the reason for the woman's annoyance. Ryuko, nothing, see you later Midoriya-san. Without waiting for an answer she hung up and held the phone to her chest, letting out a sigh. This can't be happening, she murmured, somewhat stunned. The way she acted with the green-haired boy brought her back to those moments with Keigo, before the arguments or the crazy things he did. I don't want to believe it, please let it be a joke. Things were going like that. It was clear that she was closer to being in love than she estimated. It can't be. She didn't want to admit it, but it was hard for her not to when she felt her chest jump with joy thinking about the outing with her daughter and the babysitter. All week that continued in her mind, morning, afternoon and night. She remembered the talk with the green-haired man and how he made her feel with each word. Maybe it was because of all the time she had been alone, or because of the fact that the freckled man was really very interested in her daughter and her care. He continued to deny that feeling of special affection. They were friends and nothing more. They had no relationship beyond being a babysitter and a client. There was no reason to get upset. At some point the green-haired boy would leave all this behind, and she was thinking about it a lot. She would just enjoy the surprise the green-haired boy had for them. It was not the time to think about feelings that she clearly did not have for the green-haired boy. Izuku, good morning Ryuko-san, are you ready for this day? Smiling and dressed in a very relaxed manner, the green-haired boy entered the Tatsuma house like the sun through the window, leaving the blonde stunned, as she couldn't take her eyes off him. Ryuko, thanks for inviting us. Midoriya-san, mother and daughter walked hand in hand following the green-haired man towards a convention area. Ryuta, where are we going Izuku? He said, barely containing his excitement of seeing new things. Izuku, it's a surprise Ryuta-chan, you'll have to be very patient, the girl pouted angrily at the babysitter. Calm down, we'll get there soon. Ryuko, you're being very enigmatic with this, don't you think? She said jokingly with the freckled boy, who smiled sideways before continuing without wanting to answer. Ryuta, mommy, do you know where we're going? I hope that my mother would at least have more information. Ryuko, I'm sorry honey, but I don't know anything either. The girl looked at the ground quite defeated. Izuku, Ryuta-chan, be patient, believe me you will love it. The girl looked at the freckled boy, who smiled at her. Ryuta, well, that didn't take away the anger he felt for not knowing where they were going. They walked for a little more than 20 minutes on the warm day until they saw a building where people were coming in and out, some in costumes and others with some stuffed animals that the girl liked, and began to point out everything she saw with great excitement, even though they hadn't even entered. Ryuko, what is this? Smiled excitedly, almost like her daughter. Izuku, oh, it's the convention of the magical world. Annually in this place fans of medieval and magical worlds come. There are many incredible things to do. The explanation was only heard by the oldest blonde. The blonde girl was jumping with excitement to see people dressed as elves, warriors, and there were even orcs. And you know what's the best, Ryuta-chan? The girl looked at her babysitter with excitement. Ryuta, what? I wanted to go running around the place and explore everything. Izuku, you can adopt a dragon. The girl's eyes sparkled with excitement. Ryuta, I want one, he said happily. Izuku, we'll get to that. For now we have to go in, so let's go. He extended his hand to the blonde mother, who seemed quite curious. Let's go Ryuko-san. Ryuko, yes, smiling with a slight blush, took the green-haired boy's hand and then lifted her little girl. Lead us Midoriya-san. Izuku, sure. Smiling they walked towards the entrance while looking at all the people there coming in and out. The entrance was very easy. They put a bracelet on the three of them, and in Ryuta's case they even gave him a fairy-themed suite. When entering there were many more people and there were many stalls with a multitude of things. The girl wanted to go to all of them, forgetting about the dragon for the moment. Ryuko incredible, she walked hand in hand with the green-haired man, seeing some blacksmiths making weapons with strange engravings, elves conjuring magic, and some guys with magical animals that looked completely real. How did you find out about this event? The freckled boy seemed determined to go to a specific point. Izuku: when I was in college I saw this event being born. My good friend Kirishima runs this, and although it took us a long time to achieve it, we achieved quite a bit. Finally they had gotten out of the place a little, admiring something even more spectacular. Ryuta: look, mommy, a dragon. He pointed to the sky where there was indeed a red dragon flying. Ryuko: eh? It looked too real, which surprised him. Izuku: that's surely Kaminari's work, he's an expert in special effects. The dragon lowered itself until it was on the ground quite far from where the three were. Ryuta: let's see. He pulled his mother's arm a little, who looked somewhat indecisive. Izuku: come on, Ryuko-san is not dangerous. The freckled boy supported the girl who was too expectant. Ryuko: I guess it's okay. The babysitter and the little blonde looked at each other, smiling triumphantly. There were quite a few people surrounding the great beast that moved as if it were a trained animal doing exactly what a blonde who was commanding it wanted. Especially there were many children surrounding the beast that was throwing fire, making shapes in the air, amusing everyone. Ryuko, Ryuta and Izuku stayed a little far away at the request of the older blonde, who was afraid that her daughter would get lost if she took her eyes off him. It was an amazing spectacle, with the dragon perfectly following all the instructions given by the blonde, flying around all the people, letting out deafening screams and throwing flames that he then used to light parts of the stage before disappearing in a cloud of smoke, and an egg appearing where he was initially, taking the applause of everyone there, who slowly retreated, leaving the blonde to prepare a new show. Izuku: wow, from making stick figures in a bad addition to a big dragon in the middle of an important event. The freckled boy's voice stopped the blonde, who turned to look at him. Kaminari: the bushes came to life. He pointed at the freckled boy, who rolled his eyes playfully. Izuku: head loader. They shook hands with some force. They hadn't seen each other for years. Kaminari: where have you been? Do you know how difficult it was to keep this going without you? His friend looked tense. Izuku: you know I can't stay still in one place. The blonde laughed. He understood it perfectly. Kaminari: how curious that you came. You always reject the invitations that Kirishima sends you. The freckled boy scratched his neck in embarrassment. Izuku: I had to keep a promise, smiled embarrassedly, causing his friend to deny it gracefully. Kaminari: you never change, huh? The freckled boy laughed. Ryuta: Izuku. The girl hugged the green-haired boy's leg, who looked at her with grace. Izuku: Ryuta-chan, caressed the girl's hair, who smiled. Kaminari: hey Izuku, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Izuku: oh no, don't think weird things. He picked up the girl, who looked at the blonde. Ryuta-chan, he is a dragon tamer. The girl looked at him with excitement. Ryuta: amazing, I want it too, he revealed with excitement. Ryuko: maybe when you grow up a little more, the mother commented gracefully, making her little girl pout. Ryuta: but mommy, his mother caressed his hair. Ryuko: you're still too young for that, the girl continued with her pout, making the tamer freeze in shock. Kaminari: hey Izuku. The freckled boy looked at him, knowing where this was going. Can we talk alone for a moment? Izuku: she is not my wife and she is not my biological daughter, she is my friend Ryuko-san, and I am Ryuta-chan's babysitter. The blonde froze for a few seconds, scaring the woman a little. Ryuko: are you okay? The blonde didn't seem very stable. Izuku: oh yeah sure, but he always goes crazy when I'm too close to a girl. It happened with my friend Melissa when I was helping her with a subject, and it happened with my friend Kyoko when she asked me for help with her work. The woman seemed quite surprised. It will be fine. Ryuko: sure. She looked somewhat incredulously at the blonde. Kaminari: how the hell do you have so much luck? He muttered angrily. Ryuta: this Sir Tamer, he spoke nervously. Kaminari: tell me. Baby tried to calm down a little. Ryuta: can you show more dragons? He asked with shame. Kaminari sure smiled at the girl to step on one side, showing how the egg began to move until a green dragon came out that, when looking at the girl, roared. Ryuta: amazing, she squealed excitedly, looking at the little dragon that was coming out of its egg. Kaminari: I think I'm melting with cuteness, he murmured, watching as his friend lowered the girl who was approaching the dragon. Izuku: by the way, how are you achieving this? He whispered to his friend, who came back to his senses. Kaminari: oh, it's a mechanical puppet. While it's on the ground I can move it with the panel on my feet. When it's in the air it's a projection made by drones. I use smoke and light to make it look better. Ryuko: that's amazing, admired the blonde, who smiled proudly. Kaminari: yes I know, I'm amazing, He spoke proudly, making his friend sigh. Izuku, don't even try it, Kaminari. Remember, she has a daughter. The blonde sweated tensely, being revealed by his friend. Kaminari, you have a very valid point, Izuku, he said, somewhat embarrassed. Izuku, as if I didn't know you, drumhead, he muttered, mocking his friend who smiled tensely. Ryuko PFFF held back the urge to laugh as he watched how the freckled boy handled the situation. Ryuko smiled as she walked home with a couple of bags in her hands, looking at the freckled boy who was carrying Ryuta, asleep and with her face painted like a cat along with a princess tiara. It had been a very lively and tiring day at the same time. They had spent the whole day going around doing mostly what the girl wanted, seeing all kinds of things and also taking too many photos to remember such a splendid day. Ryuko, thanks again for this day, Midoriya-san. The freckled boy turned to look at her, smiling with the girl in his arms. Izuku, it was nothing. I'm glad you enjoyed the day, he continued on his way with the blonde at his side, quite happy about how things were turning out. Ryuko, are you sure you can carry Ryuta? You must be tired too. The freckled boy smiled sideways, better accommodating the girl he was carrying. Izuku, I'm fine, it doesn't weigh much. The girl clung tighter, hugging the freckled boy, feeling a little cold, although it would be best to hurry up. Ryuko, I agree with that. I don't want him to get sick again. They walked in a rather pleasant silence. By the way, do you know how the egg thing works? I've never had anything like that and I don't know how to activate it at the event. They gave away dragon eggs that supposedly hatched with enough time. Izuku, just give it time. As the days go by, the shell will break and leave a toy dragon. That's all, he explained, arriving at the building. Ryuko, I understand. She opened the door and smiled at the freckled boy. This is fine, Midoriya-san. I can take care of it from here. Izuku, I don't think it's a good idea to wake up Ryuta-chan, and you also look pretty tired. Let me help you a little more. The blonde made a face. Ryuko, you won't take no for an answer, right? The freckled boy smiled somewhat defiantly. Izuku, obviously not. I like to help and I don't want to wake her up, so let's go. He invited himself into the building, making the blonde sigh at such stubbornness. Ryuko, he's tired too, she muttered with some anger to follow the freckled boy inside without knowing who was watching from a distance. There was an eerie silence in the elevator. The blonde looked irritated at the freckled boy, who seemed completely oblivious to her. It made her angry that the green-haired boy was so stubborn. It was clear that he was exhausted from the day. On more than one occasion she saw him drinking those energizing things so as not to fall tired on the floor. She had tried hard to give them an unforgettable day and she had succeeded. She needed to find a way to thank him for everything he had done for both of them. Izuku, and we arrived. He laid the girl down on the bed and left there, letting her sleep. Ryuko, you really shouldn't have. Midoriya-san, I could bring Ryuta. The freckled boy scratched his neck in embarrassment. Izuku, never mind. See you another day. Ryuko-san, I hope I can hang out with you more. It's fun spending time with you. He smiled innocently, leaving the blonde a little red. Ryuko, the feeling is mutual. I like spending time with you, she admitted with shame, embarrassing the green-haired boy. Izuku, I see you another day. He walked towards the door when he was stopped by the doll. Ryuko-sa. The words were left hanging in the air when the woman gave him a kiss on the cheek. Ryuko, a small token of appreciation, she whispered in the boy's ear, leaving him quite static. Izuku, I. The woman smiled, watching how the green-haired boy turned into a living strawberry eye. Ryuko, see you another day. Midoriya-san. With a rather adorable smile she accompanied the boy to the door. Izuku, see you later. Ryuko-san, he murmured dazedly, saying goodbye to the woman who closed the door moments after he walked towards the elevator, collapsing behind the door. Ryuko, what did I just do? She questioned herself, feeling how she was blushing every second. In the elevator the freckled boy was trying to calm down. He felt his heart beating very fast and it was leaving him deaf from beating so hard. It had taken him totally by surprise and it was leaving him with too many questions in his mind to process them one by one. He was too stunned on the way down to the lobby of the building, and even there he was quite dumb. Fortunately the cold wind of the night brought him back to reality, so he left there, a little more animated than when he entered, directly to home to finally sleep, or that was the idea. Keigo, nice night, don't you think? The guy's voice stopped the freckled boy who was turning the corner towards the train station. Izuku, oh, Tatsuma-san's stalker, mocked the blonde a little, who tensed up a little at the nickname. Keigo, I'm not a stalker and you're not his neighbor, we all lie. He smiled, believing he had the green-haired boy in a bad position. Izuku, why wouldn't he be your neighbor? He raised his eyebrow in confusion. The blonde had not achieved his goal. Keigo, why don't you live next to her like you said? That place is too expensive for you. He made fun of the boy, hoping to make him explode with anger. He was good at that, he had to admit. Izuku, is this because you saw me leave the building? I think you got confused. I'm going to visit a cousin. The poor guy is sick and my aunt asked me for help. I'm just being nice, although of course I don't expect a stalker to understand that, he said with utmost calm and a radiant smile. Keigo, you think you're funny, huh? He smiled tensely at such a character. Izuku, I'm sorry for the insults, but you started pointing out things you don't know. If you're only here for that, I'm afraid I have to go. Without further ado, he turned around to continue on his way. Keigo, no, I also want you to get away from Ryuko. The freckled boy stopped at the first step he took. Izuku, and why is that, Mr. Stalker? Because it's yours? The blonde smiled with superiority. I'm afraid to tell you that Tatsuma-san is free to decide who enters and leaves his life. It's not something you can possess. You're nothing more than the stalker he has. Keigo, you don't know what we've been through. What I know about her, he hoped to scare the boy or make him angry to get what he needed. Izuku, I don't care what she did or what happened. She is now an incredible woman, and that is what counts. It is what she is now that causes people to go to her, not what she was. I truly pity you, sir. She stayed living in the past without wanting to move forward. The blonde was beginning to get angry with this guy who avoided every single thing he did. Keigo, you know that girl is not her daughter, right? Since she didn't seem to achieve anything, she would use some pretty low tricks she bought her from an idiot. That girl is my daughter and she is just a kidnapper. Izuku, interesting story. He seemed to think about it for a few seconds just to encourage the blonde to continue. Keigo, that's right. They kidnapped my girl when she was a baby, and until now I managed to find her whereabouts. Please help me get to her. I knew I had the freckled one. People were too stupid nowadays. Izuku, yes. The thing is that Ryuta looks a lot like Ryuko-san and nothing like you. Despite being the biological father, he thought the last thing. Although it was a reality, Ryuta has the same hair, same eye color, and as I could see today, the same smile. He smiled, having a bad idea. Keigo, what are you saying? He smiled tensely and nervously. Izuku, wow, for a stalker, he doesn't do it very well. Today the three of us went out and had a lot of fun. He smiled innocently, knowing what he was causing. I could see firsthand the amazing smile of both of them, how their eyes shine when they discover anything new. He smiled, remembering his day. I know they are mother and daughter, and they know it too. He turned around ready to leave. That's all that matters, and it doesn't matter what someone with little credibility says. It won't be enough to change reality. Without further ado, he left the blonde paralyzed on the road. Keigo rarely encountered anything that could upset him in a bad way. He was always a pretty calm person, capable of manipulating anyone in front of him or otherwise causing what he wanted in other people. He worked with a lot of girls to have fun with them, and he worked with a lot of guys to get a lot of money. He sincerely hoped to upset Ryuko's neighbor enough to start a fight with Keigo, and with that display of excessive use of force bring a strong case to court and thus convince everyone that neither Ryuko nor Ryuta were living in a good place, that it was dangerous for a girl to live there. It was the perfect plan, except that it didn't work at all. In his life he had rarely met someone who could surpass him in the realm of speech. He didn't even remember when was the last time he felt so helpless and angry towards a specific person. Maybe it was when he was in high school and a rather nerdy guy outdid him in an argument. Keigo went crazy and sent him to the hospital quite injured. Although it could have been later in his story, the fact was that until that night he hadn't felt such a loss, and he wasn't going to let it go. Mainly because she recognized the danger that the green-haired guy and his big mouth were. If she got a case against Ryuko, it was clear that she would have the broccoli boy with her, and it would be impossible to get to the money with that. She needed to get him out of the way, and fortunately she had a very good contact to do it. Toya, I think you smoked the worst, his black-haired friend complained at his idea. Keigo, come on Dabi, surely you know someone who can do the job. The dark-haired man drank, ignoring the blonde for the moment. You always say that you know a lot of people, you have to have some contact, or did you never come to that decision? The dark-haired man tensed. I knew it. Toya, look, it was a totally different situation. Someone got too clever, and a friend of a friend of a friend of his cousin of his brother-in-law's father gave me the name of someone who could do that job. The blonde looked at him, interested in that contact. I spoke a little with him and I can say that he was very effective, but his cost is not something you can afford. Keigo, I don't think it's that big a deal. How much did he charge you? He said with absolute calm, as if money was no problem for him. Toya, do you know how much a private jet costs? Because it's close to that. The blonde remained static, blinking repeatedly without believing it. Although of course I wanted someone quite well known to disappear, that's if I remember correctly. He inflated the price. Keigo, you know, I'm starting to think you have a strange fetish for scaring me, he said tensely. Whatever, tell me how to contact him. Toya, stop right there, blonde princess. It's true that my situation inflated the price, but it doesn't mean that at the beginning it wasn't excessive, and I remind you that you can barely buy water. How do you plan to pay if you don't even have any source of income? The blonde looked at the ceiling, thinking about his options, quickly looking at his friend. Don't even believe it. I doubt you want to increase your debt with me. Keigo, you're right about that. He had very limited options. I think my mother had something valuable hidden in the brothel. I'll have to go see it. He left without further ado, leaving the black-haired man sighing in irritation. Toya, he is really determined to get him out of the way. I don't think it's that big of a deal, he's literally the best charlatan in the world. I highly doubt someone like that green guy could stand up to him. That raised his doubts, and if he wanted his slice of the pie he needed more information. Keigo's mother was a woman with enough problems that she could almost match her son. She had lived in continuous excesses, doing anything to satisfy that addiction until she had a son. At first she did feel the need to protect and love Keigo. She believed for a few years that she could give something good to the world with that child. She even had the support of Keigo's father until he found a much younger woman, completely breaking the woman and making her fall even deeper. She tried not to take her son with her, doing everything possible to get him to have the necessary studies to go far away, although it didn't turn out so well. Keigo ended up on the wrong path and was now much worse than her, and didn't hesitate to do whatever was necessary for the money and what he could do with it, such as illegally entering his mother's room and taking everything to get enough to pay for a serial killer he didn't even know. It wasn't much that he was able to get, but at least he hoped it would be enough to go after the green-haired boy's head. Thanks to Dabi, he had managed to get a quick meeting at the bar they usually go to. The only thing he knew about the guy was that he was someone very easy to recognize. Keigo, even though it's easy to recognize, he murmured upon entering the bar. He walked towards the bar to see a rather tall guy in one of the chairs. Could it be? Hey, his loud voice caught Keigo's attention. You're the one from work that Dabi said, right? He spoke too calmly, which scared the blonde a little. Keigo, yes, it's me, he said cautiously. I heard about your skills from Dabi and I need them. The guy smiled sideways while drinking his beer. Who is the one who should disappear? He looked at the blonde, who felt quite nervous seeing the big guy and his lack of an eye. Keigo, it's. He revealed a photo of the freckled man in which he appeared with the girl and the blonde woman. It's the green guy. He looked at the guy, already imagining the screams he would give. He doesn't look like someone very strong or too dangerous. It won't be a problem. Keigo, so, the guy took the photo with quite a bit of emotion. Payment is given after the job and you better not think about running away with the money, because I assure you that you won't be able to escape. He smiled in a rather sinister way, managing to scare the blonde. Keigo, I don't think my legs can run very far. He smiled tensely at the assassin who left money on the bar and left there. I guess your time has come, neighbor, he murmured before ordering something to drink. It was time to celebrate because his plan was coming out perfect.